Today's session is something that actually literally, I'll share everything about my experience about it and how it changed my life. And it's about money and peace, or peace and money. So how can you be peaceful internally while making lots of money? Okay. A lot of people connect their internal peace to things that are external, like making money, their relationships, their, what they do in their work, like, the kind of business they're in or the kind of job they're in. Uh, that when I say their relationships, that includes their families, their siblings, their friends, their colleagues, pretty much everything. And it's almost like an external stimulus that your internal happiness depends on. And that's what I used to be like when I was in my 20s. I would have tummy pain all the time, like literally consistently 24/7 pain, just because I was stressed over things. I was stressed about my relationships. I was stressed about money. I was stressed about pretty much everything in my 20s. And I'd have this tummy pain, and that led to me not be able to think more creatively, think more effectively, and literally affected everything I did in my 20s. Till I got to a point where I learned that your internal happiness has absolutely nothing to do with your external affairs or external things that are happening in your life. It all depends on you creating a ring fence of your internal happiness, like an internal ring fence. Anything that's happening externally, you as a human, we are capable of looking at our own situation as a third person and say, is this going to matter in 5 years' time? And if the answer is no, you shouldn't be really worrying about it. Okay. And in most cases, when you look at any situation, in fact, most situations, that's 99.9% situations in life, they actually will not matter in 5 years' time. They don't. Only maybe 0.1% ever matters. Okay. So our job is to create, and I'm going to come to how it affects your work and business, because it's major. When you create an internal fence and not let anything affect you that's not going to matter in 5 years' time, you will have almost nothing to worry about. Almost nothing. Okay. You might turn up and say, well, I'm not making enough money, or I'm not making a lot of money that I'd like to make. And why are you saying it doesn't affect? Well, it won't affect if you keep building your skills. Money is completely dependent on skills, soft and hard skills. Soft skills is your soft skills, your leadership skills, your communication skills, your persuasion skills. Your harder skills are learning how to find deals, how to analyze deals, how to be able to negotiate deals, how to be able to make them profitable, how to be able to raise external funding, how to be able to return investors' money and rinse and repeat the process. That's your hard skills. And that could apply to developments. It could apply to your rent-to-rent business. It could apply to whatever you like. It doesn't really matter. Your hard and soft skills. Your money depends purely on how good you are with your soft and hard skills. Soft skills first, because if you know how to get on with people, how to lead people, you will do really, really well in your business. And at the same time, if you have the hard skills to back it up, you will do really, really well. Okay. So your money is completely dependent on learning these skills and nothing else. But at the same time, if you are worried about either money or your relationships and everything else, just ask yourself, is this going to make a difference in your life 5 years down the line? And if the answer is no, you should not really be thinking about it at all. I'm going to come to another point, which a lot of people don't do. I'm not saying you, I'm saying a lot of people don't do. In fact, I used to struggle with it in my 20s, which is, instead of taking inspired action, it's almost like you're scheduled to do things. And I'm going to come to the kind of things that you should be really focusing on. Instead of really getting like inspired action, focused action, people start to overthink about things. If they look at a deal, it takes 5 minutes to say yes or no to a deal, right? Why would you sit down and think about it? If it takes 5 minutes to decide, am I going to invest in a certain a region? It's a day's research. Don't sit there and think, oh, am I going to go? Am I not going to go? What am I going to do? Is this deal if this deal is looking good, how can I raise finance, right? Don't sit there and think. It's inspired action. Go and do it. If you go and ask, and in most cases, it's a numbers game. You go and ask 10 people, you're more likely to have at least one person saying yes. But if it's going to take you 10 months to ask 10 people, the deal would be gone by then. It's inspired action, scheduled action, literally in your diary that you will approach 5 people or 10 people or whatever that may be. Okay. But coming to the main point, which is your internal fence for peace, that does not depend on your external circumstances. Your internal peace is your internal peace, your internal happiness. It does not depend on anything at all. Okay, because in most cases, either anything that happened in the past, which doesn't matter, and anything that you might be anxious about the future is only dependent on your skills and your confidence and nothing else. Okay, so you should not really be thinking about or getting worried about things in your life, because none of them actually really matters in the long term. Okay, but at the same time, coming back to the inspired action, one thing that I realized, and I've actually evolved into that person, it hasn't happened overnight, is evolving into that person who would literally wake up and take action on daily basis. It's almost like, I'm going to invite 10 people into my network. I'm going to ask one investor today. I'm going to ask one investor tomorrow. I'm going to ask the third one to the next day. And 10 days later, I've asked 10 investors. And guess what? In most cases, at least one would come back and say, yes, I would like to invest. Maybe the money is already in my account, or the money is coming into my account at some point in the future. Okay. But everything now is in my diary. Previously, it was more like, like I would do it one day, the next day I won't do it, the week later I would do it again. It wasn't consistent effort. But since the day, and this happened maybe about almost 10 years ago now, when I start to take very consistent action, and I literally schedule everything. Everything that I need to do is in my diary. Like literally, I would wake up and say, I'm going to invite 200 people into our network today. I'd go on Facebook and LinkedIn and start inviting people. I would speak with, let's say, 2 investors today. I would pick up the phone and speak with 2 investors, and I'd present them with a deal. Okay. And guess what happens? When you do this over a consistent period of time, you start to get better in how to approach investors. You start to get better on how to approach the agents. Okay. Consistent effort. When you're focused on one strategy, everyone in that region and everyone around that strategy will connect with you and will bring you deals. If you're focused on one strategy in one region, investors in that region will come and approach you if you create content around your strategy, because now people get to know you by that strategy, get to know you by that region, and they want to know who this person is, how he or she is doing, and they at some point start to invest in you, because it's a period, it's consistent effort that they see, and they start to observe, analyze, and then it builds that rapport and trust. And at some point, I've had literally people approach me and say, what project are you working on? We would like to invest. I literally have had people like that. And that's because of consistent creation of content around what I do. And then they come back and say, oh, you know what? You're doing great. Would like to know more. Literally, I get that all the time. And this is purely due to consistent effort in my diary, scheduled every single day. I need to maybe create more content, which I am not necessarily as consistent, but I'd like to. It's in my diary every day, but I still try as much as I potentially can to create content. Okay. But at the same time, every other action that you see has been consistent and it starts to produce results. Remember compounding? Anyone here remembers compounding that I talked about? Compounding doesn't just apply to money, it applies to everything in your life. If you do an activity, every single day, it has a very, very strong compounding effect over a period of time. The network that you look at, it's purely due to consistent effort of inviting people, nurturing those relationships, and then working on those. Getting deals over the line, when we are closing deals, is purely due to consistent effort over a longer period of time. It doesn't happen initially for the first few months. Compounding effect applies to pretty much everything that you do, but it won't work if you keep missing days in the middle. Okay, like literally, did you look at 2 deals every day? 4, 5, it doesn't really matter, but let's say even 2 as a bare minimum. Did you look at 2 deals every day? Have you been looking at 2 deals for the past 6 months? Have you been approaching at least 1 or 2 investors a day for the past 6 months? That is what's going to bring you results. If you're still confused about which strategy to focus on, just jump on one. Just jump on one. That one specific strategy will give you clarity on the rest of them as well. Okay, it's inspired action. It's almost like I'm going to do it and I'm going to take inspired action, and that is all that matters. Okay, your internal ring fence of your peace and happiness starts to affect, I'm going to come back to that, Kalpana. Your internal peace starts to affect positively your work as well. But if you're stressed about your relationships, about your money, about other things in your life, if you're stressed about that, you cannot be creative. You cannot think logically enough to be able to make really, really good decisions. So it's not about thinking about what's going wrong in your life. It's about focusing on the things that you can put right. It's almost like you're shifting your focus from overthinking about relationships, overthinking about what went wrong, overthinking about what could go wrong in future, which in most cases just imagination and nothing, very little ever happens. Focus that onto creative activities in your business. Focus that on looking at the smaller gaps in the market, the smaller pockets of profits in your region, and be more creative with it. That's where the money is. That's where, in fact, peace and happiness is. How do you stay motivated to be consistent and not have off days? I must say, every now and then, Kalpana, even I take my time off. Okay, because if you are motivated all the time and inspired, there's 2 different things. Motivation is external, inspiration is internal. Okay, it's 2 different things. Okay, but if you are motivated all the time, you will at some point feel tired. Okay, so it's okay to maybe have a day off when you're not feeling that great. Maybe watch a motivational video, which I do every now and then. I used to watch them every single day, but now it's more every now and then. Just watching a motivational video will help you, stay motivated. That's external. Remember, motivation is required every single day, and that's external. If I was to open my Instagram, let's say if I spend 5 minutes of my time in a day on Instagram, I'm going to see all motivational posts because I follow those people. Okay, I don't follow anyone. I only follow people who are positive and progressing and doing things and achieving things in their life. But to remain consistent requires inspiration, which is very internal. Okay, which is to do with, in most cases, for example, I can give example on me. It's all about, for me, is I need to look after my family. I wake up every day and think I need to make consistent effort, creative effort, consistent and creative effort, so I could look after my family. That does not require me external motivation. That's internal. Okay, I wake up every day. My aim is to achieve my full potential. So when I look back at my life, when I'm old, I don't want to regret not being able to reach my own personal potential. I really want to reach my full potential. That is really, really inspiring to me. And that gets me up. My family gets me up because I want to make sure that they're not just looked after, but they do really, really well, that they can enjoy their life, enjoy the experiences, and so on. But all that keeps me very, very consistent. But at the same time, there are days when I do feel low. I'm still human. We have emotions. We have internal chemicals which are released in our bodies without our permission, and they sometimes, make us moody or keep us low. That does happen. That's very, very much biological as humans. But if that happens to you, don't hesitate taking a day off and say, you know what, I'm just going to go and do something that I enjoy. Watch a movie, go for a walk, go see a nice palace or whatever. Do something that keeps you happy and inspired. Because remember, some of it is biological as well. Okay, we get that internally when we release some chemicals which can create mood effects and we feel low. And don't just take this as a personal thing, because a lot of people, because they don't know, they think, oh, because things are not right in my life, that's why I'm feeling low. Sometimes it's not that, it's your chemicals in your body which don't need your permission to be released sometimes. Okay, but inspired action is what it takes. Everything needs to be in your diary. I've got two different diaries. I've got a digital diary and I've got a physical diary that I write things into. And I literally look at both of them every day. And it's all about getting the most priority tasks done first. And then in that chronological order, I would look at the tasks and get them done. And I can assure you one thing I do on consistent basis, without a miss, pretty much every week, is speaking with investors and analyzing deals and checking on deals. Okay, this is pretty much every single day, because if that doesn't happen, we are actually not in business. Okay, I'm looking at deals, I'm analyzing deals, I'm sending out deals to other investors, those which we are practically selling as well as at the same time analyzing deals. In fact, I was nearly for good 2 hours yesterday, I was just sitting on Zoopla and Rightmove checking deals. Okay, and that's me getting up from the bed, and that's the first thing I was doing yesterday. Okay, but I do that on consistent basis without fail. And remember, our job is, let's say we are speaking with an agent or an investor or analyzing a deal, our job is to keep learning from the process, because no one is perfect. It's almost like you're learning and evolving every single day till you get to a point where you could be looking at any deal and say, well, that doesn't make sense, or this one does make sense. And you're that confident, and it only takes you maybe 5 or 10 minutes. Okay, that is where you want to get to, regardless of the deal it is. It could be a buy to let, it could be a HMO, it could be an option deal, it could be a rent to rent, it could be a development deal, flip deal, it could be a land deal. You as a property entrepreneur should be able to look at it, give it 5 or 10 minutes and say, this one is going to work or it's not going to work. And all of this is just so easy. It just wouldn't take you that long. Okay, if you invest some time with me, come and shadow me, watch some of the previous recordings, it will take you no time to analyze any deal that you look at. Okay, if it does require some technical effort to analyze, there are always people who can help you out. Okay, but in most cases it doesn't. Okay, and that you should be able to look at any deal and analyze very, very easily. Okay, like no more than 5 minutes. And if you're still struggling with that, any of you here, either those who are listening, those who are going to watch later, if you're still struggling analyzing any kind of deal, please reach out to me. Okay, I will show you exactly how to look at any deal. It could be a flip, it could be a development deal, land deal, commercial deal, a rent to rent deal. It doesn't really matter what kind of deal it is. I will be able to analyze the deal within 5 to 10 minutes for you, and then you can take that and then apply it in your process. But coming back to your internal piece, please create a ring fence. That has nothing to do with your external circumstances. It's just you and your imagination and your thinking. And that in most cases, whatever is happening around you, if you ask a question like, is this going to matter in 5 years' time? And if the answer is no, then you shouldn't really be thinking about it. And in most cases, on 99.9% of the things in my experience, don't actually matter in 5 years' time. If you build the skills, if you build the confidence around your strategy, you will go a very, very, very long way. And remember the compounding effect. Please do not forget, this is very, very important. Compounding effect applies to not just money, It applies to pretty much everything in your life. It applies to your skills, your soft skills, your hard skills. It applies to your happiness. It applies to your health, your well-being, your emotional well-being. It applies to everything if you just know how to keep compounding on top of each other. Okay, keep working consistently, because that's what matters. And focusing on one strategy, which is very, very important. You can take on different strategies at some later stage, but you need to pick one strategy to start with and focus as if there is no tomorrow. Okay, like one strategy, full focus, get it done, make it profitable. And then once you've done that, getting on to the second one and the third one becomes a lot more easier, because you've made the first one profitable. You're more likely to have people around you trust you that you will make the second one profitable. And in most cases you will, because those who make one strategy profitable, they're more likely to make the second one profitable, because it's not about the strategy, but more about the person you become in the process of making the first one profitable in the first place. Because once you've made one profitable, you're more likely to make the second one profitable, because you become that person who can make any strategy profitable for themselves by being more creative and more consistent. Okay. And this is something that I used to struggle in my 20s. I was not consistent. I used to overthink. I used to overanalyze pretty much everything. And I used to literally have this psychological, like not psychological, physiological symptoms of being in stress. And I couldn't think creatively. My mind was foggy back in the days. Now my mind is very, very clear. I know exactly what I want to do, what I want to achieve, and how long it's going to take. Yes, there are times where I might think it's going to take me 2 years, and it might take 3, but that's natural. That's very, very natural. You don't need to worry about that, because things like COVID, no one will predict, or other things happen in life that no one predicts, death in the family or whatever. But that's okay. That's a part and parcel of the process. But in most cases, I know exactly what I want, and that has happened due to consistent effort, creating an internal fence, and then around that, having more clarity on what is it that I want to achieve and how am I going to achieve it. Okay. And that you can do by spending some reflective time. Okay. Emmanuel, I can see you top of the list. Do you have any questions? Falak, do you have any questions?
No, Jack.
Okay. Thank you, Emmanuel. Falak, do you have any questions?
No questions. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you. Jennifer, do you have any questions?
No, Jack.
Kalpana, do you have any questions?
No, Jack.
Mazi, Pami, do you have any questions?
I'm okay, thank you.
Pami, do you have any questions?
No, not at this stage. No, thank you. No.
Okay.